Okay, peeps, welcome back. So today, LTCN and BCHG are at near perfect buying opportunities. We're going to talk about that, the Fed, some declaration dates for some monthly and weekly paying dividend stocks, and also what to expect for tomorrow's market trading session. With that being said, let's get it. Okay, so before we get into the grayscale trust, we're going to go over and talk about some other things first. Get these out of the way real quick. So as you guys can see, the portfolio has unfortunately been getting absolutely smashed. If you guys are down in your positions, well, we're pretty much right there with you. So as you guys can see, we are down a whole whopping 7% today on all of our positions, including LTCN. At one point, we were up, I think it was like 400% or 300% or something like that on this position. We have let it kind of bleed down a little bit, but we don't really think it's going to go down to 13. I think that's pretty much that ship's already sailed at this point. Could we be wrong? Absolutely. I mean, there could be the the $13 dip buying LTCN opportunity at some point. But in my opinion, I think it's a little bit late in the cycle because again, the halving did just happen, and the ideal time, as we've said before, to pick up altcoins, not Bitcoin, but altcoins, the ideal time to pick up altcoins is roughly about 6 months before the halving to 6 months after the halving. Okay. And we're roughly like a week or two after the halving at this point. So we're about halfway in between that mark. And this is just specifically for altcoin related things like any grayscale trust that is not Bitcoin. So pretty much everything we talk about here, plus any native cryptocurrencies that are not Bitcoin or Ethereum. So yeah, we're down. I mean, we could take profit on LTCN anytime. That would still be a great trade. But again, we do believe that LTCN is going to go up to $300, $400, $500 a share at least, if not more. Okay. One of the reasons is because of mainstream adoption. I mean, it's not just the U.S. talking about or approving spot Bitcoin ETFs. Now you also have Hong Kong. They're either talking about and or have approved spot and Ethereum ETFs. You have the United States spot Ether ETF coming up next month. The halving just happened. Bitcoin's already sitting at all-time highs, and we're pretty sure that this is not going to be the peak for Bitcoin this cycle. It's never hit highs before the halving, but at the same time, we don't think it's 74K is the top. That just seems ridiculous, if I'm being completely honest. Because again, last cycle Bitcoin went from 3,000 to 69,000. That's a 23x. It would make absolutely zero sense for it to only do. I mean, what is that from 15K to 75K? That's like a 5x. We do expect diminishing returns on Bitcoin, not necessarily altcoins, but a 5x even seems a little bit small. I would say a 10x is more realistic, so probably about 150K at least. So anyways, that's that in terms of the portfolios. I think probably the most important thing between today and tomorrow really is going to be the FOMC meeting. So as we told you guys before, in the previous video we just did, that unfortunately there was a hot labor market today, and I guess the market seems to see that as potentially inflationary, so that's a problem. Because if the Fed's keeping rates high to try to get inflation down, the last thing they want to see is something that's causing inflation to go up, right? It just makes perfect sense. The sooner that the Fed can get inflation down, the sooner we can be done with all this crap and we can go back into quantitative easing where the Fed prints money, and then, it's a true QE bull market at that point. So there is that, and there's also the CPI ticking up on the previous CPI data. So the Fed's going to be looking at that tomorrow and making their decision. So the markets pretty much estimate that there's not going to be a rate hike, that they're just simply going to keep rates the same. To be honest, I actually kind of expect they're going to do the same. Now, where I think this is going to be a little off is if we click on, I think the market's estimations of this is going to be a little bit off. You guys can see the current rate up here, and then what the market expects as a majority of the rates during any particular month out of the year. And if you guys just take a quick look, you can see that the rates that the market expects the rates to remain the same all the way through the end of the presidential elections. There I don't particularly like Biden. I really don't. I think a lot of his policies are garbage. I'm just going to be honest about it. That's my opinion. If anybody's offended, sorry. Uh, I'm a very tell it like it is kind of person. But we did, and I'll pull up this article later for you guys in a different video. But there was a point in time, I don't know exactly when. I'll have to go back and look, where Biden did say that he's pretty confident the Fed's going to cut rates before the end of the year. Well, the presidential election is before the end of the year. Okay. It's in November, and the markets are saying that there is not going to be a rate cut until December. Well, if you think about this from a psychological perspective, if Biden wanted to get reelected, which in my opinion he has zero chance of doing, it's not possible in my opinion. I think Trump is a better candidate. Anyways, we had 4 years of a great economy with Trump. There was no inflation, there was no war, there was no any of this other garbage going on. Okay, um, things were affordable for most Americans. That's just the bottom line. I mean, Trump is very good at what he does, which is running businesses and running the economy. He's a businessman. But if Biden is going to give himself the best shot at trying to get reelected, which I think he's pretty much burned that bridge already, then theoretically we would see rate cuts before November. Okay. Because again, the election comes in November, and a lot of investors, a lot of big money, smart money, Wall Street, the banks, all that, they're not going to want to see a recession or crazy inflation, or the Fed's still trying to fight inflation by the end of this year. They're just not going to want to see it. I mean, unless the Democrats just completely fumble the ball and they just simply screw things all the way until November and December, then all I got to say is good luck. Republicans are going to win. That's going to be that. And Trump's going to get reelected, which, in my opinion, it does not matter what Biden does. Trump is going to get reelected because Biden's pretty much already burned any chance he has of reelection. He's been voted as like the worst president in 70 years. I don't think I need to say more. So, anyways, enough of that. So let's go ahead and go over the defiance ETFs. So we got triple QY here, as you guys can see. Scroll up real quick, scroll down. These payouts are actually quite huge. I'm not sure why they're so big, but they're really massive. So you have 85, almost 86 cents, which again was declared today. The payout date is on the 6th of next week. So if we look at the calendar, you guys can see that is Monday of next week. The X date is on the 1st. So again, if you didn't get in before today, you unfortunately have missed the payment date on next month. But there is always, I mean, this is a month over month dividend paying ETF. So there's plenty of time for you to accumulate shares if you want to. But 86 cents per share, it's pretty good. And again, that's 66%. So we're going to go over to, excuse me, JEPY. So this is 54%. Again, this is a monthly payer. And the dividend distribution rate for this is 76 cents, which again is the largest one we've seen basically since the inception of the fund. Again, I don't know why it's so big. They're usually not this big. So something's definitely afoot. I don't know if it's a lack of volatility or what it is, but yeah, anyways, so this is what you get for JEPY. And then IWMY is really eye-popping. So look at this, 103%. This is just crazy. 103% for 1 month. Absolutely bonkers. So $1.41 dividend, the biggest that this thing has ever had. And again, this is based on the Russell 2000, and Russell 2000 has been pretty violent this month in terms of swings up and down. I know because I've been traded it in the futures market. I see this on a daily basis. But yeah, this is just a crazy dividend. So it could really, unfortunately, really slam the price of the stock. But, investors that understand what they're getting into here understand that the price may go down because the dividend's so huge. So qdte, you guys can see here, we got paid 25 cents on this one. Again, declaration today, payment date. So the X date's the same. Payment date is going to be a little bit sooner. So that would be this Friday. And if we go over the other one, which is the S&P version. So yeah, pretty similar. Exactly the same payment, which is weird because the NASDAQ's a little bit more volatile. But anyways, 26 cents on this one. And again, the payment date is going to be on Friday here. So as you guys can see in the other portfolio, we really got slammed pretty bad today. We put on some more options and bought some more shares and stuff because, of course, there's no better time to buy than buying the dip, as they say, but not financial advice. Of course, you guys can see we're down a massive 6% on this portfolio. So let's get into the Grayscale Trust. All right, so we're near the buy zone here. So again, that's 23 to about 27 bucks. The swing high is up there at 55. If you just bought it now and held to the swing high, just to give you guys an example, that'd be an 88% move. If we want to see this thing really start to ramp up again to the upside, this is always how I like to measure when the move is actually going to take place. So you can see on the 4-hourly time frame here, when we eventually did get this move, this triple golden cross way back here at $11, that's when this thing eventually started ramping up. Why is this so bullish? Because generally this is how we swing trade. If we get a golden cross like this, we get in immediately on the cross and then just ride it up to our 15% target. It sounds simple, but it's actually not that simple. So, and again, you guys can see the run up was slow and then it just absolutely exploded to the upside. So it looks like this thing wants to make a death cross. Again, what we're looking for here is the price to move back up above the EMAs and have a golden cross on the 4-hourly time frame. When we see that, then that could be an early indication that this thing's about to have another big explosive move to the upside. So now going over BCHG, again, this is perfectly positioned right exactly at the bottom of the zone. Does it have to stop at this zone? Not necessarily. It can, but it may not. Again, JPAL is going to be speaking at 11:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time tomorrow, or if you're on the East Coast, that would be 2:30 p.m. And of course, adjust with your time zones accordingly, whether you're on Central Time, Mountain Time, whatever the case. But if it does not hold this level, it could come down here to $7 to $8. So it's perfectly positioned. I mean, it's there if you guys want to pick it up. Again, I personally would not be the guy buying all the way up here. But unfortunately, some people just don't understand technicals, and they come to this channel and then they find out, after they bought the top or something, that this is generally when you see the green box, that's where we try to buy. So. The move from there to the swing high, as you guys can see, we're just going to do the immediate moves today. We're not going to talk about like big scale moves. 132%. So again, support is between roughly about $10.40 to $12.60. Resistance is $18 to $20. And again, for BCHG LTCN, we want to see a break of the trend line here. We also do want to see a golden cross on the EMAs on the 4-hourly time frame, kind of like this here, except the red one did not cross above the blue one, so it didn't get enough time to actually start ramping up. And we'll keep you guys up to date on that as we see these things develop in time. So HZEN, still kind of waiting for this to come down into the zone. I suspected it's going to do it. It's just kind of hesitating here, so it's getting bought up immediately when it hits the zone, but I have a feeling it's probably going to come back down to the bottom of this candle here before it bounces. So that's at about $4, but again, the zone is 380 to 420, and then 680 to about $8, and then the 1050 is the swing high up there. So even from the current price to the swing high, you're talking about a massive 125% move. From the zone to the swing high, it'd be an even bigger move, about 173%. And just so you all know, the FOMC meeting tomorrow, you guys will be able to see this and get yourself positioned in if that's what you want to do. Again, at 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time tomorrow, several hours before the FOMC comes out and announces what they're going to do. So again, this thing has 2 more days to fully close, but it could potentially come down to this $11 level. We did talk about this. So even from the current price to get back to the wick high up here, you're talking nearly a 60% move. And 13 to about 18 is going to be the support above head. Below that's $11. Resistance 1760 to about $20. If we give you one more good measurement move, if you wanted the perfect trade, so to speak, ideally get in at 11, and then sell out at 20, you'd be looking at 80%. Again, I'm not saying it's a perfect trade, but you guys can do what you want with that. So I would say on GXLM, this thing probably stops at like about $32. It lines up perfectly with the trend line and the candle tops there. So we're getting pretty close, but not quite there yet. But even if I was to measure it from the current move to the swing high, you'd be looking at about 93%. Again, in a situation like this where I'm not sure where exactly the bottom is going to be because you have kind of this funky price action, I would just simply, for me, if I was going to get into this, I'd get in now, but I would DCA in on a daily basis just in case it does continue to drop, because you never know exactly where these things are going to bottom out. If there's no clear structure, it makes it very difficult to predict where the bottom of the price is. And again, the resistance is between 52 to 58.5 on that one. So ETH looks like it might be trying to get below this trend line. We don't know yet. Again, there's still 2 days left. If it does get below there, probably stops somewhere between 17 to 18, or that I should say that would be the next stop. So again, anywhere between 17 to about the current price, about 20.5. Resistance is 25 to 29.20, and the swing high up there is 35.60. So let's say you wanted to wait to get into the zone and you wanted to sell all the way up there at the candle high. It'd be a big move, about 102%. So Zcash, this one is perfectly positioned. Again, it is at support. And as you guys can see all the way back here 2 years ago, this thing had tested as support, failed, and then retested as resistance, failed, and dropped to our bear market lows. So it's a significant level. That level again is $4.40 to about $5, $7.40 to $8, and then all the way up here, you'd be looking at about $10.20 or so. So again, it is perfectly positioned right now to be able to scoop up on the dip at a support zone, and the move from swing to swing would be about 128%. GSOL has confirmed a breakdown unless this thing just has this massive explosion to the upside and then it closes above this trend line. It could happen tomorrow based on what Powell says, but we'll see. I still say that most likely it's going to bottom somewhere between 175 to 205. We'll just do a comparison between now and that price. So the high up here is 575. If you wanted to get in now, you could still get a good gain. I'm not saying you couldn't, so it'd be 74%. But again, the drop on this thing could be huge. It could be about 48%. Okay. And we don't know exactly when this is going to reverse, but if you got in at the zone and you rode it to the peak up here, your move would be way, way bigger. It'd be nearly a 3x what you would get at this level. So how you want to go about that is up to you, but the move from the zone to the swing high would be about 200%. Mana, we did pick this one up at the zone, but unfortunately it does look like it maybe might want to go lower. Not sure about that one yet. So if it does, it'd be about $11. Current support is $7.60 to $20, and the swing high up here is $70. So again, from where it currently sits to about the swing high, we'd be looking at about 325% or so. So a huge move on that one. GBAT, this thing is just getting clobbered. I mean, after this thing's been selling off for this long, I suspect it probably is going to bottom soon. I mean, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 going on 7 weeks of red now. I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, that looks pretty beat down if you ask me. I mean, the RSI is nearly oversold on this thing, and last time this happened was pretty much the bear market low at about 60 some cents. I'm not saying it has to bounce immediately because the RSI is massively oversold like that, but it is kind of a big deal. So we saw something similar in Tesla, different technicals though, and Tesla has had a pretty massive resurgence since then. So again, if it drops to support, that's going to be about 430 to 520, and the resistance up here is $32. I would say this is actually a pretty good deal right now. Maybe just DCA down, and I mean, the drop could still be pretty huge, but if you DCA down, that could also de-risk the amount of downside that you would have. So 350% move from the current price, and then from the zone, it'd be an even bigger move. You'd be looking at almost twice as much, so 560%. G-Link, this is almost perfectly in the zone. Again, the zone is between $66 to $85 and roughly about $220 on the high there. So just from where it currently is to the high is 163%, and then from the bottom of the range to the high is going to be about 234%. So Phil G, this is getting actually really close. Oops, I did not mean to do that. I'll deal with that later. So it's getting really close to this support. Support is roughly about $37 to $41, and the swing high is way up here, so roughly about $400. Even from the current price, I mean, this is a big move. It's about 700%. Again, there's no guarantee it has to go that high, but based on the timing of the cycle, I would say there's a likelihood we're going to see these things go higher than where they currently are. So again, 866% move from zone to swing high. And GLIV, this candle looks like it's getting bigger, so I suspect probably either this week or maybe next week we will hit the zone. Again, the zone is 12.25 to about 14.5, and the swing high up here is about $80. So lots of opportunity here to buy these things on the dip. Whether you guys choose to or not, that's up to you, but I'm just presenting the opportunities here. So 325% from current price to swing high, and then from the zone to the swing high would be even bigger. You'd be looking at about 462%. So, I mean, that's a huge move. That's a 5x. So big moves there. Anyways, hope you all enjoyed this content. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see y'all later. Peace.